Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Good. Good to see you all. Happy to have you here. You can't see my head, can you? Yes, you can. All right, let's turn this off real quick. Welcome music's good. Got to turn it off. All right, there you go. All right. So, everybody, my name's Angus Thorn. How are you today? I felt like writing today, but I didn't want to write some jokes, so I wanted to write some ideas down because I've been looking at a bunch of horror movies lately, and I looked at some really good ones, believe it or not. And that's, I think, where I like to draw most of my comedy from is really what just exists around us. I have no political ideals because I don't follow it. You know, I know what I see. I don't always understand what I see, I guess. But the movie that started this for me is I wanted to watch something that I hadn't seen, something campy, something strange. So I found the movie Skinned Deep. Skinned Deep. It was definitely, uh, definitely something. When you start off, I mean, this is one of those movies where I started watching it, and when I was watching it, all I could think about was, this is hilarious to me. And so I thought of a lot of times in my life that I did find horror funny. So I said, you know what? This is where I'm going to get my creativity today, so let's draw on that. So, anyway, when I was thinking about the horror and the comedy and how silly it was, I thought back to movies in the early 2000s. I thought back to Rob Zombie. I thought back to my roots with Sam Raimi, Evil Dead. I thought back to Wes Craven for Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought back to Cunningham, Sean Cunningham for Friday the 13th, John Carpenter, Halloween. And Skin Deep goes right in there. Why? Is it as famous? Probably a lot of people don't even know about it. But it had Warwick Davis in it, and I originally wanted to watch Leprechaun, but then I saw this had Warwick Davis as Plates. Plates. The character's name was Plates. So I said, holy crap, we're going to watch this. And as I started watching it, I realized even the soundtrack didn't match up. And I thought that was funny. So I really decided to delve into it, and I said, holy cow, this movie is hilarious. It's funny, but it's a horror film. And you're made to think that horror films are supposed to be scary, right? Well, no, not really. And this is where the topic of today is going to come across. Comedy and horror are not different. What is fear? And I'm not going to answer that for you. Everybody has their own fear and defines it in their own way. So think about it. And then what is comedy? Because everybody has something that they define as comedy. Now, there are certain comedy triggers, but everybody has their idea of what they find funny and what they find offensive, what they find scary, and what they find tolerable. Okay? Good. We've established that people have their own ideas and are allowed to do what they would like and see things as they want to see them. Now, I started off when I was younger. I was very afraid. And as I'm building this comedy act, I can talk about, the fears and growing up and probably fix a lot of things by putting in hard work myself. So fear and comedy are not that different. Humor is what makes the horror films work. And it's funny because, what we saw as monsters, not all monsters stay monsters, and not all monsters were born that way. So you see them created in the films, and then you see them resolved in horror. And that's a way of dealing with it because it became popular. Popular ways of dealing with fear that can make people deal with it in a funny way are going to thrive. That's why there's so many sequels to horror movies. And again, I love romantic comedies, but again, there's the only reason you don't have sequels to romantic comedies is because the couples that we saw on screen aren't together like 72 hours from the time we saw them last. That's just the way that works. But the undead serial killer will come back to life again and again. So horror, we've established, makes us feel a certain way. Comedy, we've established, makes us feel a certain way. Comedy makes us feel good. Horror makes us feel scared. Horror can also make us feel good, and comedy can take the same situation, a scary situation, and make it funny. So what we're talking about is how we can deal with it. And I think Stephen King and Wes Craven, they probably dealt with it the most because they created characters that are everlasting, but they've changed from what their original form was. I used to have a fear that I was going to stay heavy forever, but look, I was able to button the top button of my shirt. How did I deal with it? I didn't deal with it through humor. I dealt with it through a different type of work, but that's just what it is. But as far as comedy and humor, I used to be terribly afraid of horror films. I mean, very afraid. I stayed with Dad in the barn for a number of years. But I saw Ghostbusters when I was 3 years old. 3 years old, I saw Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters started me not to be afraid of horror movies because the tagline, I mean, it's literally in the tagline, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Monsters were a different story for a while, but eventually we got over that. But that's through humor, and you can see that. Freddy Krueger started off very violent, but he was always funny. Robert Englund played him fantastically. Jackie Earle Haley played him different in the remakes, but there is a new Nightmare on Elm Street that apparently was just greenlit, so it's going to go into production. So I am curious to see it, not going to lie. I thought there was supposed to be another Friday the 13th, but that didn't look like it happened really either. But that being said, when towards the end of the series, New Nightmare was a little different. But in the beginning, Freddy began to evolve. He became more punny. It was enjoyable, and a lot of movies took their cue from that. Jason later on became different. Kane Hodder brought a different energy. Everybody brought a different energy, but then there was some sight gags in there, especially Jason Takes Manhattan. That was something. They live in memes, man. Another one that I watched recently that cracked me up was Zombievers. There's nothing to that movie other than an absolutely hilarious premise and a fun ride to get there. And it has everything that people look for in a horror movie. It has blood, it has gore, it has nudity, it has bad dialogue, and it's funny. That's what you're looking for. Some of the greatest, I think, the greatest comedians, or the people that understand comedy the most, are the directors like Eli Roth, Quentin Tarantino, Wes Craven. You know, they know these. The Kaplans, they know these. Because you can't make something dark without being able to get out of it. You have to be able to laugh at it to Stephen King knew this. It's kind of the premise of the book It. Sorry if I've ruined it for anybody, but that's been out a long time. So if you don't fear something, it can't hurt you. And that's just part of what I think is so interesting. And then let's look at the way humor comes across at different things. So let's start with the music. Jaws swimming by, and then there's the bear water skiing. You can make a scene funny. You can make anything funny. And that's what I find strange about today is we're so quick to cancel everything. A little different. I watched that horror series, or Monsters. The one that has Evan Peters in it from American Horror Story. And he plays Jeffrey Dahmer. And it's dark, man. It's dark, but it's incredibly well written. But I was thinking about this when I was working on this script for today, and I was thinking about how we used to make Jeffrey Dahmer jokes when I was in grade school in 1991. In grade school, they used to make the jokes like, "What did you find in Jeffrey Dahmer's fridge?" Nothing. Well, what did you find when you looked in the bathroom? Head and shoulders. And we laughed. But the truth of that is that man killed, assaulted in various ways, and consumed humans. But we find humor in it because it's an easier way to explain why things exist. That's why we can laugh at horror movies. It's good to laugh at horror movies. It's good to find humor in everything. I think we're losing the fact that just because something is funny and can be made fun of doesn't mean it's necessarily the views of the person that is saying it. And again, I'm not trying to preach or say that I'm more important or than anybody else, because I'm certainly not. But I think in this world where those of us want to make a living making people laugh, we need to make it very clear that we all have different styles, and it's all going to be our work. And to try and censor it it's silly, because that's just not how the world is designed. You know, we spend all this time making sure that we dress up and we show up and we do everything the way that we're supposed to. But we're following everything that other people want us to do. I think the education system is gone. It's good. I thank you for coming and listening to this today, because there's a lot of important information in it. And yes, it's a little more ranty than really a comedy show, but I think there's a lot of things that I want to see out of life, and I think we all need to understand are true. And we can move forward and stop trying to blame everybody else for everything, and let's just laugh. You know, I didn't get into comedy because I didn't want to laugh. And I didn't get into comedy for quite some time because I took a very long detour getting my butt kicked by life to figure out how funny everything was, and that when I took it too seriously, it doesn't work for me. Maybe that works for somebody else, but it doesn't work for me. So here I am. Here I am. I've always been told I should use my voice for something, so now you got it. So really, comedy and horror, in short, is not that different. We like comedy, we like horror, but we all have our opinions on it, right? We like certain horror movies, we like certain directors, we like certain comedians, and we don't like other comedians. It's a matter of taste. You know, we need to stop this ad hominem thing of, you know, one bad joke or one bad thing destroys everything in this world, because it's hard enough. It's hard enough for everybody. I keep saying that. It's hard out there, man, but I just came from it. I don't have anything other than my comedy right now. I'm here for you guys. I need to help everybody laugh because I need to laugh. So thank you, and I hope you keep following for more stuff. Yeah, there'll be some rants from time to time, but my goal is to make people laugh, but I need viewers. Everybody, listen, everything you guys, that everybody's doing to better their lives, keep doing it. Don't give up. Don't give up. Remember, you can find humor in everything. It's okay. Feel free to laugh. Feel free to have a good time. My name is Angus Thorn. April 16th, 8 p.m., open mic night, The Funny Stop, Cuyahoga Hall. I keep saying that. Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. It's like Irish wristwatch. You know, it's hard to say. But here we are. I have a song on the accordion that I wrote, so I'll play it on the 16th. I know we got 5 minutes, so I'll play a quick version then. But anyway, my name's Angus Thorn. Thank you for coming to the show, and I'll see you next time.